Happy Monday, everyone. Hope you've had a fantastic January. There's been a lot that's happened this month. So today we're going to talk about some industry news. I have an artist highlight for you, and then I'll talk about what's going on with CG Forge. So to get things started, let me share the screen over here and talk about Atom's Unreal 3.0 released in beta. This is a really cool plugin. It's an XPU animation to compute simulations more effectively on CPU and GPU to support for Unreal 5 and runtime variations. What that means in English is that this is a plugin that's designed to create crowds inside of Unreal Engine. It's pretty darn cool too, if you haven't checked it out. It looks like there are 5,000 agents here. You have all kinds of really cool options. It is a little bit pricey, but really high quality. So, it could be worth it in certain situations. Anyway, I didn't know this existed before today. So if you haven't checked this out, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Next up, we have Modeler 2022 for Houdini being released this month. With this, if you haven't heard, by the way, Modeler 2022 or Modeler for Houdini is a set of tools used to make organic modeling easier inside of Houdini. And it's a really cool plugin. This is designed by Alexi Vanzuela or Vanzula. And it looks like in this particular release here, we have some new things. We have Z for Houdini, which allows you to export to ZBrush. And that's really cool because that allows you to edit geo in both Houdini and ZBrush. It updates automatically. It bridges between the two. We have soft Boolean options right there. And yeah, it's something to check out. If you're looking for a solution for organic modeling in Houdini, something to keep an eye on. Also, big news in January, Microsoft is set to buy Activision for $68.7 billion. It's actually one of the largest acquisitions ever in history. And this particular merger hasn't been approved yet, but it's set to be approved. And man, what a big deal that is. Microsoft some would argue, would now have not really a monopoly over the market because you still have Sony and you still have a lot of different indie development studios. But as far as the AAA game market goes, Microsoft owns a huge, huge portion of all of that. And so the company will now own Blizzard, Benix, Demonware, Digital Legends, High Moon Studios, Infinity Ward, King, Major League Gaming, Radical Entertainment, Raven Software, Sledgehammer Games, Toys for Bob, and Treyarch. So this is really great if you have an Xbox Game Pass, because now that would potentially include all Blizzard games. Next up, Epic launches a new studio in Poland. This is led by developer Plastic, the creator of Bound, Datra, and Linger in Shadows. So if you're from Poland, this could be an interesting opportunity to check out. And it looks like they're focusing on developing new standalone experiences. So whatever that means, I'm not sure exactly what kind of games that would be. Maybe some one-player, kind of single-player games is what it sounds like. And yeah, Poland is where CD Projekt Red is from, if you guys aren't familiar with that. So good news if you're from Poland, if you want to check out new opportunities in games. Next up, we have Frost Giant Studios, led by ex-Blizzard veterans, and they raised $25 million for a brand new studio called Frost Giant Studios. They're going to focus on the RTS genre, I believe. And this is led by Tim Morton and Tim Campbell. Looks like they are not releasing any specific details on what the new game might be, but it's really cool to see some folks with experience trying to start up their own indie game. So yeah, real-time strategy. That's kind of the aim here of what they're going for. And if you go to their websites, they mention that the upcoming game is really about an epic war between Earth's last remaining hamsters and an invading force of giant alien vacuum cleaners. Not really, but I'm sure it'll be something fantastic and epic of that sort. And speaking of Blizzard, it's also making a brand new survival game. So they kind of have RTS with StarCraft. They have the MMO with World of Warcraft. It's only a matter of time before Blizzard tries to get into the survival genre, and here they are teasing that. So there's only been 2 images released on this, but it looks like this survival game is based in some kind of foresty environment. Again, we only have 2 pictures showing this. And I guess we'll see if this ends up coming to fruition. Whenever you have buyouts, sometimes projects get cut off. Sometimes new ones get made. It really depends on Microsoft now and how they're feeling. So I think that's something to also keep an eye on. Also, speaking of acquisitions, Unity acquires Zevia Dynamics. And if you're not familiar with Zevia, it's basically a system for creating real-time humans. And so Unity has been acquiring all kinds of different companies. I believe, yeah, so they acquired Weta, SpeedTree, SyncSketch, PixYZ, and Rest AR. And so to me, that sounds like they're really trying to go for that real-time film niche, that real-time film experience. And, well, we'll see if that happens. In my opinion, Unreal is still winning the race as far as real-time engines go. But with all these different acquisitions, maybe they can buy enough to actually compete with Unreal Engine. Only time will tell. But something interesting as well. And really, when it comes to all these buyouts, I mean, gosh, you've seen so many buyouts happening lately. I'm not sure exactly as to all the reasoning behind it. We kind of talked about this last month a little bit, but I suspect part of it is trying to grow a global portfolio of businesses. You know, there's a lot more business risks out there these days with whatever new pandemic might be on the doorstep of XYZ country. So it's nice to have diversification across multiple countries. Also, I think right now is just a great time to retire. If you're some of these smaller companies who are, looking to sell to a larger company, maybe retire a little bit, hang your hat. right now we are in the midst of a inflationary recession. And so when money is not worth as much, it makes sense to gain power, to gain equity, to gain value in the actual businesses rather than care about the individual currency. I think from Microsoft's point of view, or from looks like Unity's point of view, it's not really. It doesn't really matter the sticker price as much. It matters more so just owning the things that are the main players in the given industry. So I think that's kind of the mindset, and that's why we've been seeing so many different acquisitions happen lately. But that's just my hypothesis. If you guys have some additional ideas, go ahead and put it in the comments. This is a live wrangle, so I'm here to hang out with you guys, and yeah, curious to see what you think about that. But moving on, we have some unfortunate news with V-Ray for Moto and Katana, being that it is now discontinued. Moto, I think lately has just had a bad shake at things. Before doing Houdini, I was a really big fan of Moto. That's actually one of the main softwares I started with. And it's just kind of sad to see that the Foundry hasn't kept up with Moto. I think that Moto was one of the best programs out there, and it just was very underrated for a period of time. But really the nail in the coffin for Moto specifically, in my opinion, has been the rise of Blender, and how Blender really does a lot of what Moto tries to do, what it was really known for, especially when it comes for modeling. So that's something to keep an eye on. Also very interesting that Katana is part of that list as well. I think that many studios that rely on Katana will be disappointed to see that they cannot render in Moto, which actually is kind of a bigger deal than it sounds, because, for both Moto and Katana, it just shows that the Foundry is not doing so well. And I really can't say I'm surprised. I think that for a while, the Foundry's business practices have just been too aggressive. They're suing artists, so they're suing studios left and right, trying to make their money that way through pirating software. I don't promote pirating software, obviously, but it was certainly a very aggressive move that I think made studios uneasy for hiring anyone who freelanced Foundry products. So I think that kind of contributed towards their decline in a way. And also just their customer service hasn't been that fantastic either. So I'm not terribly surprised, I guess is what I'm saying, to see that Moto and Katana no longer have support from V-Ray. So something to keep in mind in the future. In other news, the US game sales set a record, with consumer spending reaching $60 billion. And if you don't believe that video games are a big deal, this should convince you otherwise. I'm not sure how it compares with the film and VFX industries, but I think that it's safe to say that gaming is outpacing what VFX, film, and TV are doing at the moment. And that's just in the US of $60 billion. So it's a massive, massive industry. Something to keep in mind in the future is this merging of techniques between VFX and real time. And I think as we go forward into the future, the idea that real time is this completely separate thing from VFX is becoming less and less so, especially as we get more hyper realistic in our productions and real time engines. Especially when you think about TV series and you want real time engines, real time renders for everything. If I was a 3D artist right now, and I am, coming up for the first time, I would invest heavily in real-time stuff, even if I was trying to go the VFX route, just because of the advantages that real-time engines have for TV shows. I know that many studios are currently trying to adopt real-time workflows, and it really is a benefit, I think, if you guys invest in that right now. Also, just to showcase my points of how realistic things are getting, this is a really cool animation from Glenn from The Walking Dead right here. And this was made by Marco Di Luca. And it's just the eyes and it's just the face right here, but I shouldn't say just, it's absolutely incredible, especially given the fact that what we're seeing right here is real time. That's absolutely insane. And so here's a model right here. I think this was in Unity or Unreal Engine, one of the two. No, actually, the animation was made in Maya and Arnold. So, but still, I mean, absolutely incredible renders. This is hyper realistic. I think the blood could have been a little bit better right there, actually. But the eye movements and the animation is absolutely insane. So, a really cool artist to check out at some point. So, I have a couple of comments right here. Is Solaris meant to replace Katana? Well, not right now, but I do think that it's on the table. I do think that if Houdini keeps doing a good job with USD and trying to integrate that seamlessly, that many studios could benefit from that, at least in the capacity of authoring USD information. I think Clarice is more of a favorite at the moment. It's more of a fully dedicated set dressing lighting tool, kind of taking that niche that Katana is supposed to have. And so I would probably bet more on that being the norm. But you could see Houdini in the capacity of creating USD content that then gets sent over to Clarice. So something to keep an eye on for sure. Let's see. And then this was a comment by Christopher. Yes, Solaris has the capacity to do that, and the linkage between RenderMan and Houdini also comes into play. Super nice. So yeah, I really think that Houdini is going to be used more and more. And actually, it is being used more and more for both VFX and games when it comes to just authoring that USD content and also having the benefit of the Houdini bridge. That's also a really cool plugin, especially for procedural modeling and things like that. Okay, moving on here, we have SpeedTree 9 being released. Let's see, it looks like we have a new SpeedTree generator mesh converter, and a freehand mode designed to craft models along with editing existing assets. So I haven't personally checked this out yet, but we could see by some of these GIFs here that you can actually sculpt the trees, get more of that specific shaping involved, which is really cool. That's really nice, especially if people want to have better artistic control and feedback. You know, in the past, if somebody wanted to create, you know, the branch going in a specific direction, it might have been a bit more of a hassle. Or if they wanted to add little bulges or like little tree knots in certain spots, looks like that is much, much easier now. And it's just taking the SpeedTree experience and making it more hands-on, more artistic, which I think is always a really cool thing to have in some kind of software. All right, the mill and NPC advertising are set to merge together. And like I said before, there is just a ton of acquisitions, a ton of mergers going on right now for a wide variety of reasons. But it looks like Technicolor Creative Studios has announced the incorporation of award-winning VFX studio NPC advertising into its sister brand, The Mill, to create one global studio network. The new consolidated studio will be led by Josh Mandel, previously CEO of The Mill, who will be taking on the new role of president of advertising at Technicolor Creative Studios. So the existing studios in London, Berlin, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Bangalore have combined with NPC's advertising studios in London, Amsterdam, Paris, Shanghai, New York, and Los Angeles. Again, kind of going to this idea of geographical diversification. I think that's one thing studios really care about right now. And this is a good example of how these mergers kind of allow the big companies to exist everywhere that they want to on the map. Also, if you guys have watched my Pyro courses, you know that I'm a big fan of Matt Puchala's Axiom. And so this month, Axiom 2.1 was released. There's a lot of really cool new tools involved here. We have 10 to 25% faster simulation time, which is great. We can simulate up to 2 billion voxels. It supports 16-bit float memory downloads. And we have all kinds of really great noises, really great ways of creating, let's say, gradients for forces. So if you wanted, let's say, turbulence to affect the upper bounding box of something, you could set that with this new Axiom release. It's part of all the main features. So a lot of benefits of speed, performance, but also artistic control. I think it's a really great release. And if you guys haven't checked out Axiom, I highly recommend doing so. We also have NVIDIA. NVIDIA says that the chip supply will improve in the second half of the year, which would be awesome because, as you guys know, the whole GPU debacle last year made things really, really expensive and just impossible to get at times. So they claim that the supply chip will improve and that the corporation will be better off in filling the orders it's been getting over the last 6 months. Now, will this actually happen? I hope so, but who knows? Companies say these kind of things all the time to keep people stringing along. Doesn't mean that they will actually live by that statement. I've heard mixed opinions on this chip shortage. You also have to keep in mind that chip shortages are happening across everything. So cars, everyday electronics. And so even though they might be able to say that graphics cards are going to be next or going to be good, that doesn't really mean that the chips won't go to those other things first. So only time will tell, but that would be fantastic. We'll see. All right. We have another question here from Strider. Do you think flip fluids needs to be updated in Houdini for better surface tension and other stuff? Yeah, I think that in general, Houdini kind of suffers from this, there's just a ton of different algorithms that are kind of spread out everywhere. And it's not like there's one flip fluid workflow. It's not like there's one pyro workflow. And so as more technology, as more developments in flip fluids and pyro get made, it kind of creates a mess of nodes inside of Houdini over time. So I think it would be nice to see side effects consolidate some of those tools. I think that right now, there are a lot of things in there you just might not know about. As an example, there is a pop fluid node that's basically a solver inside of pops that a lot of people don't realize. That uses an entirely different algorithm for surface tension, for everything. And so I think what you'll find is that in Houdini, they do have those new algorithms in there. They're just kind of scattered around, and it's not very consolidated from top to bottom at the moment. So, good question. NVIDIA Canvas 1.1 is released. That's where you draw a little doodle sketch and it makes amazing art. And if I was a concept artist, I would be concerned. How to make a 6-figure salary in 20 minutes. Just kidding. That's not really possible. But yeah, this technology is absolutely amazing. Check it out, especially if you're into concept art. It's a really great way of starting different pieces. NVIDIA Omniverse, calling all creators. This is a controversial topic that I'm curious to hear your thoughts about. We have NVIDIA Omniverse, which is NVIDIA's 3D design collaboration platform. And what they're trying to do right now is get tons of creators and artists to contribute their work into the Omniverse to be used by everyone. And so here's the thing about Omniverse that is kind of a little bit controversial. It's that you're basically just asking people to show up for free and do a bunch of work that can be used by everyone. It's not like anyone's really getting paid for any of their high quality work that they're putting into the Omniverse. It's just kind of crowdsourcing a bunch of work that then they hope to use anywhere they want to. Who knows? I mean, maybe that crowdsourced idea could work in the future. I mean, nobody thought that Blender would work as a crowdsourced piece of software. So if they can make something work like that, then perhaps the Omniverse or the NVIDIA Omniverse can find a bunch of people to create assets. I don't think that they're going to be very high quality, though. I mean, your really high quality artists are going to be paid for their work, I would assume. So what do you guys think about that? Would you create content for the Omniverse? Why or why not? It's a topic that I am not too sure of yet, but I'm very curious about what you think. All right. Well, that about does it for news. There was a lot of stuff that happened this month. I now want to switch gears and talk about an artist highlight, specifically looking at the work of Simon Wholemetal. And, there was recently a cool forum asking people who their favorite Houdini artists were. And Simon was one of the ones that came up, and I'm a big fan of his work as well. So let's take a look at some of these things right here. It looks like Simon specifically goes for fractal designs, this kind of like abstract, algorithmic design of sorts. Looks like he uses a combination of particles and pyro simulations to create these interesting works right here. I'm a pretty big fan of some of these weird shapes and, things like this. So, I guess if you're looking for inspiration for your own artwork, especially if you're into this abstract stuff, one thing that you can take away from Simon's work is this idea of blending, let's say, particles and pyro together. That's kind of what he does for a lot of this stuff right here. Pyro, particles, and looking into interesting algorithms, specifically algorithms that promotes a evolution of the model over time. That's pretty much the three things that he puts together. And the idea is that if you can find three things of your own that you really latch onto, whether it be pyro, particle simulations, getting into procedural algorithms, you can take the combination of those three things and turn it into your own style. And as long as you kind of stick to just a few areas and you really dig deep into making the most of it, then that's kind of what Simon did here. And I think it's a really cool method for finding your own style. Again, it's just the idea of taking three ingredients that you like. Maybe it could be vellum, pyro, and particles or something like that. And just trying to always create interesting artworks with those three ingredients. That's not all he does, by the way, but it's just kind of something that I took from watching Simon's work. You could certainly kind of take that route and kind of carve your own abstract style by doing that. So something that I think is really, really cool. All right, and lastly, we have Pyro 3. That is now released, and this is the latest CG Forge course. This is an advanced course. It's a big one. It's over 15 hours long. It's really the accumulation of over 6 months of research and development into creating all the things you need to know for professional pyro. So if you guys are interested in pyro and you've already done a little bit before, this course is awesome because I go into just about everything you ought to know. This is using both Karma, Redshift. I'm using the sparse solver. I'm using Axiom. I talk about the traditional pyro solver, the pros and cons of all those things, and then how to translate what you see in reference into the specific gas nodes that make up a pyro solver. So it's definitely something to check out if you guys are into pyro. So speaking of Omniverse, you guys had some comments on that. I wanted to try Omniverse, not to make content for them, but to get my GTX 1080. Doesn't support it anyways, and I can't even get an RTX card if I wanted to. Oh yeah, so I didn't even know that. I have a 1080 as well that I'm working on, and it sounds like I can't even open up the program. So even more of a block if you have an NVIDIA product and you can't even open it up, or you can't really do much with it. So I think that the Omniverse, in what NVIDIA is trying to do, is going to have a lot of hard times trying to really get this to latch on. And also, if you look at the way that they're advertising, they're kind of just trying to leverage the power of USD more so than just bringing anything new to the table. So it's clever marketing. It's showing these really cool demos of USD and not really telling people that Pixar actually invented that. But anyway, I think they're going to have a bit of a struggle with that in the future. So yeah, and then also going back to Simon's work, a lot of VDB operations as well. That's absolutely true. And if you guys haven't taken a study into VDB operations, I'd highly recommend it. It's definitely one of the studies that's helped my Houdini artwork a lot over time. So that about does it. Looking forward into the future, right now I'm making some more quick tips. So if you guys have any requests for future quick tips, I've already made a couple of things on flip fluids and specifically meshing in Houdini. I am probably not going to do a flip course in the near future. I want to probably go back to SOPs and some modeling first before I get there. But if you guys have anything you'd like to see as far as quick tips are concerned, let me know. I'm open to ideas, suggestions, and all of that. Besides that, I hope that you have a fantastic week. I hope that the month of February is prosperous and that you guys achieve all your wildest dreams. All right, guys. I will catch you later, and thanks for watching.